Started just so that we get through everything that we would like to today. So first of all, congratulations again to the incoming class and to our new faculty and staff that are here. Welcome to your first convocation. If they're returning students, we welcome you because this is going to be your first time on campus as well this year. So thank you again for joining in this morning. We are going to begin with just a few housekeeping items, and then you'll be hearing from some of our administration and a special guest that we have. But before we do so, I just want you to acknowledge for a moment that school is about to begin in 3 days. I hope you're excited. You may be a little nervous. That's okay. Just know that we are here to support you, right? So welcome again to Convocation 2021. And I'd like to add that this session will be recorded. So Kathy, if you can make sure that's being recorded, that'd be great. And it will be available for students, faculty, and staff post this event as well. Throughout the session, you will only be able to see us on the screen, and we'll introduce, they will be introduced shortly. There's a chat function that you'll be able to use throughout the morning. You'll not be able to unmute your mic. You don't have that capability. Just note that whenever you send in your chats that they are not anonymous, so all of us can see everything that you post. And finally, if you've called in from a number, I didn't get to look at every attendee at this time, but if you're a student and an incoming, and we know that this is required for you, if you called in, please send us an email to SSW Student Services so that we can verify that you attended. So as a reminder, if we can't account for your attendance, you will have a hold on your account until you do a makeup assignment or makeup event. So please ensure that we have verified that you attended Convocation. Okay, all right. And you can use your emojis and all of that so we can continue to engage. That's fine. I already see Jamisha doing that. I'm not surprised. She has high energy. So welcome to everyone again. So now that the logistics are out of the way, now let's get started for our second virtual convocation. In brief, Convocation is an annual orientation event bringing together new students, faculty, and staff to affirm our commitment to an ongoing exploration of systemic, social, racial, and economic justice issues. This experience is intended to help students understand the importance of intersectionality, critical consciousness in order to work effectively within a range of human difference, including but not limited to culture, race and ethnicity, color, gender, gender identity, and expression. The program is also intended to help students begin to analyze issues of power, social location, and other basics of cultural humility and anti-oppressive social work practice, and to value self-understanding in relation to culture and family to foster culturally responsive social work practice. So that is what our convocation is about, but primarily, especially this year and in the times that we're in, we want to ensure that you feel welcomed into our community. You belong here. We're excited that you're here. So again, welcome. I am TRISHA HAWTHORNE, Director of Student and Academic Services, best known as the Office of OSAS. I'll be moderating throughout this entire convocation event, so you'll be hanging out with us for about 2 hours. And it's going to go by quickly. Just stay engaged. It's not going to be long and drawn out. We have some high energy and we have a great speaker here this morning. So though it sounds really long, just hang in there and just know that we will try to make it as engaging as possible. So again, welcome. Our aim is to make sure that you feel like you're part of our community. Today, you will hear from Dean Nina Heller, Associate Dean for Research, Dr. Michael Fendrick, Associate Dean for Academic Affairs, Dr. Joanne Corbin, and again, our special guest who will be introduced in a few minutes. And obviously, welcome to you all as well. So you can pat yourself on the back, on the shoulders, whatever works for you, that you've made it and that you're about to begin your MSW, BSW, or PhD journey. So we're really excited to have you here. So really quickly, I'm just going to go through a slideshow so that you can meet some of our faculty and staff. And the idea of this is if you see them, you can at least remember like, oh yeah, they're faculty. Let me say hi. Or, oh yeah, I saw that picture in convocation for the staff member. Let me say hi. So just ensure that we are learning again how to communicate in person and have in-person conversations, or at least wave, right? We didn't need to do that for a while. We've been doing thumbs up emojis for a while. So we just want to ensure that you know who you'll be seeing while you're on campus. So this is our administration. They lead the ship. Dean Nina Heller, Dr. Joanne Corbin, and Dr. Michael Frendrick. I'm not going to be calling out all the names of every slide that you see. I'll just pause and just allow you to just put the name to the photo, but I definitely wanted to highlight our administration, who you'll be seeing on the screen in about another 2 minutes. The Office of the Dean, located on the 3rd floor if you ever need to. These are the individuals that work with the Office of the Dean. Our program directors, I'll certainly highlight because we have Dr. Paula Neiman. She's the new BSW program director. So if the BSW students want to do any send confetti, whatever it is, let's welcome her. She started this week officially. So we welcome you. And Dr. Brenda Kurz, her camera is not working at this time, so I definitely wanted to highlight her as well. She's listed as your advisor in student admin. She's not your advisor, so please do not email her. Email OSAS or when you get your advisor assigned. And Dr. Scott Harden, the PhD program director. Okay, so we'll be going through Office of Research, and if you're ever interested, you can email Lindsay. The Field Education Office, I would like to highlight Dr. Nicole Campbell. She'll also be introduced by Dean, but I wanted to ensure that we also recognize that there's a new Field Education Director, Dr. Nicole Campbell. And Nancy, you always receive emails from Nancy as well in the Field Education Office. And the field coordinators within the Field Education Office. The Office of Finance and Administration, the glue to the School of Social Work when it comes to administration and anything finance at all. The Foundation Office, so they collaborate with all alums. If you're interested in collaborating, you can always reach out to individuals that you see on the screen. Office of Outreach. OSAS office. And then we'll go straight into our faculty. So just look at the concentrations. So for the community organizing faculty, you'll certainly have courses, and for community organizing students, some of them will be listed as your advisor as well. All right, so shout out to Community Org. IGF, so individual groups and families faculty. You'll certainly have them in your basic 5390, 91. If you're second year here, your IGFP courses. So again, we want to make sure that they're welcomed and that you're aware of who the IGF faculty members are. It's a lot, so we'll just be going through quickly with the IGF faculty. And Gio, we want to welcome Gio because he started last year, and it's his first time now being on campus. So we welcome you as well again, but this time in an in-person feel. And one more slide for the IGF. Likewise with Kelsey, she also started last year virtually, and now it's her first time being on campus as well. So we re-welcome you as well. Okay, then we have policy practice. So for all our policy students. And then we do have a new faculty member, Dr. Singh. You will definitely see a lot more of her as well, but we wanted to make sure that we're welcoming you again, Dr. Singh, and we're looking forward to collaborating with you as well. So with that, welcome, welcome, welcome to everyone here. Thank you for all the faculty and staff that are also here. We're looking forward to a robust year. It'll be different, but different can be good as well, and we're excited about that. This will be our guest speaker who will be introduced. I'm not going to read a bio, that will be read shortly. But I also want to make sure that we have time to get through the program. So now I'm going to welcome Dr. Nina Heller to the screen. And as she comes on, she'll say her welcome, and then I'll stop sharing my screen. So Dr. Nina Heller, or Dean Nina Heller, please, please, please come forward.
Thank you, Trisha, for that beginning. I'm delighted on behalf of the UConn School of Social Work, faculty and staff, to welcome you to our official opening of the 2021 academic year. I'd also like to take this moment to introduce the new members of our community, and Trisha has mentioned them: Nicole Campbell, Field Ed Director, Dr. Paula Neiman, BSW Program Director, Dr. Sukhmani Singh, new faculty, and Leanne Lucier Smith. We are delighted to have you with us. While I've been saying this for 8 months now, we are living in remarkable times. I'm sure each of you has your own story about what this COVID pandemic has meant for you, your families and loved ones, your communities, your education and careers. I, for one, will welcome the time when my opening remarks or closing remarks have nothing to do with the pandemic and the challenges it has caused for so many. Yet the word that comes to me today is resilience. All of you present on your screens today have managed. For those of you coming straight to us from your bachelor's programs, you are now old hands at online learning. Many of you return to family homes, and while fortunate to have been able to do so, for some it may have felt like backward movement. You may have missed out on physical graduations and many of the celebrations and social occasions that typically mark that milestone. Some of you contracted COVID or cared for loved ones who did. Many provided care for children and older relatives. For those of you who were employed last year, you likely saw significant changes in your work environments. For those in social service work, you may have had agencies revert to a remote provision of services, and you saw up close the ways this pandemic has disproportionately affected communities of color. And yet, here you are. You each have your own story that led you to a career in social work. Perhaps you had seen social workers in action when you were a child or adolescent. Maybe you yourself experienced hardships that made you stronger and more focused on the possibilities of recovery. Maybe from early on, you witnessed or experienced instances of discrimination and the microaggressions that often come along unnoticed by others, and you were determined to understand and confront them. Or you may have had your eyes open during the summer of 2020 when greater attention was finally paid to underlying issues of systemic and structural racism and violence against people of color. Perhaps you've watched with dismay the polarization of American politics and the uncivil discourse that has become all too common. Maybe you saw any of these things and wanted to help. We, as a faculty and staff, commit ourselves to teaching you how to help and what that means. All of us start with the intention of helping, and that is necessary but not sufficient. That is why you are here. Whether it is the basic underpinnings you'll learn in social work foundation courses, the skills and integration of theory that you will come to understand in advanced concentrations, or the critical self-reflection that you will undergo in human oppression and across the curriculum, you will end up with the knowledge and skills embedded in a social work ethical framework to really be able to consciously and reflectively provide help. Research will help you to frame questions, understand the complexities of human and social conditions through a variety of methods. Field education, the linchpin of social work education, will provide you with life transformative experiences. And I promise you, those are the experiences that 10, 20, 30 years from now, you will remember. From your own perspective of having developed resilience in the face of a trying year and a half, where you had to balance fears and hope, and you came out on the other side, you will be able to recognize in your clients their own capacity for resilience. You will be able, whether you are working with an individual, family, group, or community, to help hold that balance between hopes and fears. One of your strongest instruments of change will be yourself, the perspectives you bring, and the receptivity you bring to learning. Of course, you had many options of where to do your social work education. I am delighted that you chose us. Your school is ranked in the top 15% of social work schools nationally, and that is due in no small part to the faculty from whom you will learn. My colleagues are internationally and nationally recognized as scholars in many areas, and our Associate Dean for Research will highlight some of those. In some classes, you will read the books they have written and the articles they have published. You will hear about the research they are doing, and there may be opportunities for you to assist on research projects, which will end up impacting the practice and services you provide to your clients. You will have opportunities to testify at the Connecticut State House on issues that are important to you and the people you serve. You will know how a piece of legislation will affect real people with real lives. This is a good reminder that regardless of your concentration, micro informs macro and macro informs micro. These dual lenses are critical for effective practice. The learning, of course, doesn't stop at the classroom walls. We have a rich array of lectures and initiatives which will supplement your learning. We have doubled down on our diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts through collaborations among faculty, staff, and students, and while partnering with people across the university. Some of this we are actually able to do in real time. For example, last year, our Just Community Committee held solidarity hours at times that we knew would be difficult around the election, the insurrection, and the verdict on Derek Chauvin. We take the reality that we are living in a time of social, racial, and economic challenges seriously and want you to be able to use your knowledge and skills to thoughtfully assess and act. We have a responsibility as a profession and as a school community to call out racism and inequities when we see them around us. And most of all, to build and maintain a community where respect and compassion frame everything we do and every interaction with each other. Where there are differences and concerns, talk to each other. When you have issues to raise with your faculty and administrations, come to us. Together we can address difficult issues, even if we don't always agree. We are here for you. Finally, I want to thank our social work staff who each and every day support the educational mission of the school. We could not do the work we do without them. I wish each of you a challenging and rewarding year of reflection, learning, and an increasing sense of belonging. I hope that you find your social work career as rewarding as I have. And as I've become fond of saying over the last year, if ever there was a moment for social work, this is it. Thank you. And now I would like to introduce our Associate Dean for Research, Michael Fendricks. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, and good morning, everybody. I have a few slides to share. I know classes don't start for a few days, but here is some overview of some of our research and scholarship. Hopefully that I can share that. Okay. One of the advantages of being at a university like the University of Connecticut is that our school is housed in a leading research university, and where social work faculty works to produce cutting-edge applied knowledge that improves training, benefits clients, organizations, and communities, the places where you will be working. As to give you a sample of the kind of scholarship that our faculty is producing, and this is just very recent book titles. I say very recent because one of the things that we excel in nationally is in our scholarship around books related to all aspects of the field of social work. Foster care by Nate Ockpick, international social work, Rebecca Thomas' recent book, a book on refugees and asylum seekers, produced by doctors Megan Berthold and Kathy Liebel, and most recently, Dr. Louise Simmons on igniting justice and progressive power. These are just some of the titles. And as I said, there are really many, many books and articles in leading publications, dozens every year, that our faculty produce. And our faculty have a wide impact on all the critical areas that you'll be studying and working on. This is just a word cloud, which is generated from the scholarship as we reviewed all of the diverse publications, books, and research interests among your faculty. As you can see, the large imprint that we have in international social work, in mental health, addictions, in social determinants of health. I could say many areas. Our faculty collaborate to generate millions of dollars in research and training grants. As you can see, it's millions of dollars, and we collaborate with, and this is just in fiscal year 2021, in terms of what we've submitted in terms of proposals, but we're actually awarded $3 million, over $3 million in new grants from federal agencies, state agencies, and private foundations. We work collaboratively with Department of Children and Families, Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, the Office of Early Childhood, and Department of Social Services. These are some of the agencies that we collaborate with within the state. And also we collaborate across the school, across the university, with other departments and centers. UConn Health Center on Aging, the UConn Health Center on Excellence in Developmental Disabilities, the Institute for Collaboration on Health Intervention and Prevention. These are just some of the places where our faculty are working on grants and research projects that create opportunities. And students like you can get involved, as Dean Heller mentioned, in a wide range of research opportunities. You can participate in data collection, running projects, publishing findings. You can develop practical and marketable skills that can benefit the organizations where you work. And many of these, most of these are paid opportunities. So we do have linkages from the research, not just in terms of what you're going to learn in the classroom, but in terms of practical opportunities. Now, I'm the Associate Dean for Research in the Office of Research and Scholarship. And we do all these different things around promoting and expanding research and scholarship, raising our research profile, assisting members of the social work community with grants management process, and fostering engagement and collaborations between the social work community members and other scholars, agencies, and organizations and communities. But this last one relates to you. We do foster connections between students and these research opportunities that we described today. And we also run many events, full slate of events featuring presentations by faculty, researchers, and outside experts. Check your local listings. We do reach out to OSAS, making sure that you're all informed of all of the events that are occurring. And most of the events this year will be virtual, but not all of them. And this is going to be a great opportunity to learn about the research our faculty members are conducting. So for further information about events and research opportunities, here's an email that you can contact. And I'm in my office at least 3 days a week this semester. So I look forward to seeing all of you and some of you at some of our events. Thank you, and good luck in the years ahead.
And now we'll have Associate Dean for Academic Affairs, Dr. Joanne Corbin.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning to our entering students, our returning students, to faculty and staff, and to our esteemed speaker, Dr. Cheryl B. Chapman. Thank you, Dean Heller, for your words this morning, reminding us that in the midst of the disruption of the last 18 months, that there continues to be a place for growth, development, and resilience. And thank you, Associate Dean Michael Fendrick, for your focus on the research and scholarship aspects of our faculty in our school and for our students. Thank you. I am so pleased to welcome each of you to this new academic year. I am so looking forward to beginning this year with you, with your hopes and dreams of a new start, and I'm so looking forward to actually seeing you in person this year. In my role as Associate Dean for Academic Affairs, I work with the directors of the BSW program, the MSW program, field education, and the Office of Student and Academic Services to develop and deliver the best educational experience that we can for you. Our goal is to equip you, students who have selected community organization, policy practice, or individuals, groups, and families, to enter the field with the knowledge and skills to best serve the clients that we serve at the macro and micro practice levels, and to do this work guided by the values and ethics of the social work profession. For example, in the midst of this COVID-19 pandemic, we think together about the ways we can address your educational needs of working with clients and agencies affected by COVID-19, or the skills that are needed to deliver telemental health when this is needed, or the knowledge of how to address issues of grief and loss that have affected so many. We reflect on where and how we as a school have the conversations that explore the historical and the political dynamics that contribute to issues of oppression and racism, including oppression towards our populations of color and LGBT communities. In the midst of populations displaced by the political violence and ecological change, we need to explore where we address these issues and prepare you to work with displaced communities. In my role, I work with faculty and staff to implement strategies to support student learning and involvement in our program, as well as support the faculty members who deliver our curriculum. My conversations with students have contributed to some of those strategies, so I thank you very much. I also meet with students about concerns or questions they may have and discussions about the field of social work. Last year, I held the coffee and chats each month as one way to hear your thoughts and concerns, and I will continue to hold these. This year, I look forward to meeting the entering and returning students. I'm interested in hearing your thoughts about how we can prepare you to enter this field well. I'm interested in learning about what brought you to social work and the goals that you have for yourself. I look forward to all of us, faculty, staff, and students working together to support your goals. May you have a productive year. And now I have the pleasure of introducing our esteemed speaker, Dr. Cheryl B. Chapman. Dr. Cheryl Bissett Chapman is a passionate advocate and internationally recognized expert in child and family welfare. She has taken the road less traveled many times in her career, including transforming a small Baptist orphanage into the National Center for Children and Families, an internationally recognized agency with 20 and more programs that provides a community care service model to more than 50,000 children, youth, and families annually in the National Capital Region. She specializes in a wide range of topics, including juvenile justice, systems reform and child and family welfare, poverty and homelessness, childhood trauma and maltreatment, domestic violence, and cultural competency. You will see her influence as an academic and educator and practitioner scholar from her facilitation of the first formal child protection system in the Pacific Basin to being invited to present at the first National Conference on Child Abuse in Israel. A recipient of numerous awards and recognition, Dr. Chapman received the Lifetime Achievement Award from the National Association of Social Workers and served on the second Jerry M. Consent Decree panel for the DC Superior Court, where her research led to systemic and programmatic redesign. Recently, Brown University conferred an honorary Doctorate of Humane Letters to her in recognition of her achievements as an advocate and nonprofit innovator. Brown also recognized her with the John Hope Award for Public Service. Chapman's current research has turned into an upcoming book, Black Male Youth on the Edge, The Art of Healing, and focuses on African American male adolescents removed from their families and placed in public child welfare and juvenile justice systems. It is my pleasure to welcome Dr. Cheryl B. Chapman for this convocation speech. Thank you.
Hello, good morning. This is absolutely exciting. This is like going home. You're probably mostly millennials or younger, but to go home after 5 decades is like a big deal. I've come home to UConn School of Social Work, where I graduated in 1974, in a small class of Black students, but a very diverse class of folks who aspire to specialize and move forward in this helping profession. I just want to say to Dean Heller, I kind of fell in love with you the first time I talked to you because it was like, oh yes, I remember my roots because I am a dyed-in-the-wool social worker. I've got other trainings. I've been around with my creative instinct to read everything, see everything, and try everything. You hear a little bit about that because I think social work is the best platform for folk who really want to be expansive, who want to build things, who want to change things. So Dean Heller, I'm so grateful to you for this invitation. It's helping me put some closure on some experiences and reconnecting to important ones. So what I wanted to do today is to really talk about kind of my journey, not from a kind of self-absorbed perspective, but as a way for you to kind of go along with me and think about where you are, okay? My argument is that a professional identity is really about the use of yourself on behalf of something bigger than your own needy, sniveling little requirements, right? That it is something that takes you into a bigger place and creates meaning for those around you. It is for me a profoundly small d democratic, a Christian notion, I am a Christian, that really speaks to we're all connected and that in fact our destinies are linked to one another. So I'm going to talk to this theme of the power of the pivot, elevating the passion of social work to my alumni colleagues and those who will be becoming my alumni colleagues as you enter this exciting phase of your life. UConn created an influencer in me, and I would say will create an influencer in each and every one of you. But that doesn't mean that it's something that's imposed upon you. It's something that you engage and marry and you dynamically shape for who you are. So I'm going to talk first, real quickly. I have a structured process, but I want to save some time for you to ask me some questions in the chat room, or to really mostly share with me your passions, okay? So I want to start with some of the imagery for me, the imagery, and there are 3 Black women, and I'm just going to quote them. But as you can see, Jameson, Alvin Ailey, you can see that this whole pivoting requires a foundation and discipline. It allows you to get up on your feet, on your toes, to even elevate beyond what everyone expects you to do. A large blown Black woman who dances like a bird took Alvin Ailey's dance theater company to a prominent international promise. Look at her. And when I saw her, and I saw her a couple of times, I would just sit there mesmerized with how she could lift up and take that beautiful, expansive Black body and celebrate being alive. So for me, the social work profession inspired the kind of passion that other Black women influenced in me. And I'm going to quote 3. Please bear with me. And then I want to engage in a journey of thinking about where you come from as your form of identity, where you come from. Because I don't want to go over this bio again. I'm going to talk about really who I am, not the achievements, not the boxes, not the specialties, not the foci, but really identity is the source of pivot, of elevation, of passion. So the first quote is Maya. I always love Maya Angelou. I have a piece that she signed on her grandmother's poem that I have. I bid it for it in an auction. It's my special piece. And she says, there is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you. Social work is, your identity is internal. It's what it adds up to inside you. It is your story. And you don't really empower folk. This is just my belief. The dean might say you have been gone a long time. This is my belief that came from my beginnings at UConn, I believe that you don't empower people. I was there when the empowerment model and strengths-based model emerged in the late 60s. But I say you model empowerment. So what you model for your systems, your clients, your organizations, your communities, is you model your own empowerment so they can see what it looks like to lift up. And there's no greater agony than having an untold story. That means you're not okay. You don't know who you are. And how can you, the Silence of the Lambs, Miss Charisse, I used to use that movie to teach. If you don't know who you are and why you're there, you will be devoured by the cannibal. But if you know who you are and why you're there, not even a cannibal can eat you. The second quote is Toni Morrison, beloved. I got mistaken for her once when we both had on brown uniforms marching, and I was like, oh, they thought I was Toni. Really, really, really? An incredibly brilliant communicator. And she says, and all my people out yonder, hear me. They do not love your neck unnoosed and straight. So love your neck. Put a hand on it, grace it, stroke it, and hold it up. And all your inside parts that they just as soon slap for hogs, you got to love them. The dark, dark liver, love it, love it. And the beating heart, love that too. More than eyes or feet, more than lungs that have yet to draw free air, more than your life-holding womb and your life-giving private parts. Hear me now. Love your heart, for this is the prize. So as you explore neural research and brain research, I believe that the brain only heals through the heart. All right, the brain only heals through the heart. Influenced by scholars in the past, I understand that your self-concept comes through your heart. And then my last quote, my beloved Angela Davis, got the chance to meet with her again last year at the Maryland Nonprofit Conference, where she was the speaker and had a debriefing with the nonprofit execs. Quote, only that what we experience on a personal level has profound political implications. You macro policies evil. But that our interior lives, our emotional lives, are very much informed by ideology. We oftentimes do the work of the state in and through our interior lives, what we often assume belongs most intimately to ourselves and to our emotional life has been produced elsewhere and has been recruited to do the work of racism and repression. So in her speech last year, she said basically, looking for the charismatic leader, that's not going to fix it. Looking for the marchers, that might help, but that's not going to fix it. She says, look at your own system, nonprofit execs. Look at your own system, your own contracts, your own grants, your own organic policies, organizational policies. Look at you and how do you participate in this repressive model? It's not everybody else. You begin with you because you can be exploited in your need to help. So I would like to just kind of end this section of my presentation to you and ask you to think along with me. Because my premise is that your identity is where you come from. Where do you come from? As you enter the School of Social Work, where do you come from? So I had this exercise with a group and I wrote my where I'm from piece. And I want to share with you, but I want to share with you while you think about where you're from. And you might even write down a few sentences that begin with I am from and fill it out. You may want to do that because you may be stunned at really what your identity is, your internalized self-concept. And you don't need to do a DSM-5 to assess the condition of it, because that really isn't interesting to this social work graduate class of 74 that did in fact master DSM-2, I think was what was going on then. So let me read this to you. Let me share it with you. It's a very conclusionary in terms of where I'm going to go with now introduction to the social work principles, because that was the influencer. That is what influenced me. Cheryl, I am from a 10-roof shanty, 3 rooms, an outhouse and a well, and a southern farm, flatbread cooked on a wooden stove, Big Mama's teachings as she cooks exquisite food, all that we have. I am from a Black community in a racist white university town, living across from a foster home and behind the country's first Black Republican senator, parentified the big sister, parentified oldest of 2 oldest, 51st cousins, protector of children from bullies, all kinds. I am from 5 primary white elite institutions who taught me the need to form identity that was mine, to rebel against assumptions, to walk out and bring in other Blacks, to provoke change. I am from a historical Black university, Howard, a Delta Deer, an institution builder for my people and a student of my racial journey as a Black woman. I am from God, a brilliant, courageous mama, a hardworking, very angry daddy, and a gorgeous little brother, the lawyer. And finally, I am from Africa, Dakar, and I live on the water overlooking the country from across the Atlantic and Goree Island, the new Museum of Black Civilization. It is underwater now, and COVID, as I write, and my family there is dying. So how do you reframe who you are? That's my alternative frames. All right, we can get into born in Jim Crow time and the Black migration north and all of that, but who are you really? Where are you from? And I think social workers, we each must grab that opportunity to self-define and self-define so we get to our real core values, because that's what we have to manage. That's what I learned at UConn. We have to manage that. Growing up across the street from a foster home and watching children come and go and bringing them food, my dad fussing about where's the food going, and trying to understand at 8, why are you here? And why are you leaving? And the woman who had one part of her house beautiful and the part that they lived in was dank and dark and depressing. At 8, I understood that there was something not right here. But I could bring them brownies and bananas from my kitchen and be their friend, even though they couldn't come out the yard. This whole thing about going to white schools, because I was a poor girl, and so I couldn't go to Fisk and Howard. I mean, working class by the time I was at that age, mom going to school too, trying to do her own breakthrough, the first Black woman to get an MPH, a nurse, but in the South, she was rejected from nursing school. She could have been a surgeon. She was that medically brilliant. And so growing up and seeing how the Black girl, how my showing up Black and female affected whether I got to participate in. And so I was able to, at 19, participate in leading out 23 Black women, and our colleagues joined us, to walk down to a Black church in Providence and become visible. That's me there, visible, make us visible to the university, who admitted us but didn't see us and couldn't let us talk and didn't care about our requests. And across the very different diverse demographics of us as a group of Black students and undergraduates, we agreed that we wanted to be visible, we wanted to be heard. We came to the point of it's time. And that transformed Brown. And the first Black to lead a Ivy League university came out of Brown. The request we had for 11% representation and our protests with our Jewish colleagues saying, we don't want a quota, we want a floor. Now Brown finally, and this has been over 50 years, finally has a representation of Black students at Brown that's respectable and reflects the representation in the community. 50 years it took to transform Brown. But it began with these students. So I think the whole notion I learned young was find a collective voice. Now, so why did I share that with you? because that was all this was pre-UConn. But I'm saying that you're pre-UConn, you're brain to UConn, right? This was me preparing for profession. I didn't even know. I thought that I was going to go to Broadway and make it in Black theater, and of course that didn't happen. So I became a probation officer in Providence, and a supervisor who was a social worker said, you should go to school of social work. I'm going to BU School of Communication because I want to talk about what I see. And of course, they didn't give me any money. They probably suspected that's what I was going to do anyway. And so I came to UConn on scholarship, and it changed my life. And the reason why it changed my life was really the introduction of values and principles that so aligned with my instinct that I just grabbed it. And an institution allows me to work through my testing it. My master's thesis was a comparison of goals and aspirations of Black and white students, because I wanted to understand why we had so much tension going on. Well, the white students were older, they wanted to specialize, the Black students were younger, and we want to go do community work. And the curriculum didn't kind of address either one of us pointedly. And I learned at UConn, don't just emote, don't just stereotype and radicalize, don't go and seek information. Be thoughtful, be methodical, be reflective. Look at who you're looking at. I learned from Jan Prochaska at the Newport Child and Family Services Agency. I will always adore her. She may not know it. I know she's kept up with my career because she's that kind of a woman. All I would do is bring my process recordings to her. She'd give them back to me with a red question mark in sections of the process recording. And I would go out after our meeting and cry, because what she showed me was how hard it was to focus on the other person and not on me. She showed me how important it was for me to know that it was me I was talking about. And all she did was put a red question mark in the process recording. No judgment, no shame, but just helping me confront myself, because identity is a key, and that value that we enforced at UConn. The old notion of ethics, UConn taught me. So I heard about the service, social justice, dignity and worth of the person, importance of human relationships, integrity and competence. And now you're coming into some upgrading of the code so that we now put some emphasis on proactive self-care. You cannot be ethical if you are not, again, taking care of yourself so that you are healthy in your outlook, ability to step back and not impose your social values on folk who have differing values than you. All right? Trustworthiness, and again, demonstration, not just believing in, but demonstrating your own self-awareness. Goldman's work on leadership, emotional intelligence being a foundation of effective leadership in social work. Your EQ. Do you know what you look like? Can you see others? Can you engage? Can you do cultural humility? That is not always your worldview that really is even important. All right, so at UConn, I got that introduction. And I think that it was really, it shaped my whole experience. And let me move quickly through this because I want you to have some time to talk to me. Learning, managing, challenging policy and practice, that began at UConn too. Talking to the dean, I could go talk to the dean at UConn and say, look, we don't have the influence on the candy machine. So what's this autonomous objective that you have for professional? And the dean would say, that's a very interesting thought. And begin to talk about how we could be together in a different way, how I could own the curriculum and make it mine, not something imposed upon me, and not being intimidated by a notion of unresolved issues with dominant authority, patriarchal, that comes out of my background. Albert Ellis teaching us that we become adults by reprogramming ourselves and not taking our childhood program and imposing it on the world unconsciously. Yes, all at UConn. Traumatic growth, I just want to comment on, is part of our journey. and began to experience some of that. The pregnant girls that were hidden away in the church and not allowed in the Hartford school system. The professor who didn't agree with me that it was really illegitimacy was really not tolerated based on my little research in his course. And then we had to work through what's an analysis and how do you do it. And there was traumatic growth for me. There was traumatic growth when another field instructor said, "Be careful because you're intense. You're a great student, but you can like burn out." And I've always heard her in my ear. So trauma is not just what bad happens to us. Trauma promotes growth. The pandemic has promoted growth for me, for my agency, and for my colleagues. We are different now. We're doing better things, different things, more effective things. We've let go of things that we should have let go, but didn't realize it didn't work. Now we know it didn't work, and it was harmful. This whole idea about believing and having the faith, I think social work for me is a little bit like the spiritual journey of believing that we're not going to go under, we can get to the other side, that we have vision and goals that are believable. So I'm just going to begin to wrap that up and then just summarize what has happened to me because I went to UConn. I went to UConn and from this little shanty in South Carolina. Okay, I've learned that it's okay to be marginal. We have one foot in all kinds of stuff. And that we need to understand that it's okay to be an informed, not knower. In fact, that drives us to be culturally competent. If you think you know, you're already in trouble. All right? Who does have a clue? The folks we serve teach us technique and helping. The book that we're doing, that's ready, the final chapters are going to NHW Press. The book we're doing is based on the voices of the boys. And they have stunned us around some of their perceptions. The gift of the shift, how do you avoid disconnect? How do you seek evidence? How do you reject burnout? You're responsible for your burnout. You should not burn out. That is an ethical obligation. Right, stay aware of what motivates you. What are your values? And manage yourself and your direction. Shift the power. So as I conclude now, I just want to give you some samples of what I've been able to do amongst the highlights, amongst that, the passion has really, with my social work framework, I really admire UConn for somehow imprinting me in a way that really drives my life and my work and my career. And I wasn't so aware of it until the dean said, would you talk to the students? And I'm like saying, oh, I can go back to when I was in that seat. And so let me go back to when I was in that seat and then move you forward just quickly and then open this thing up. That's what I've been able to do. I've been able to deinstitutionalize juvenile justice with Peter Edelman, Mary White Edelman's husband in New York City. Yeah, that was coming out of UConn. I was like newbie. I was all up in the whole discrimination, bringing kids back from lockup, opening up community-based facilities for them, all up in that. Documenting the browning of child welfare and the plight of African-American children. I had the privilege of being the co-editor of the first child welfare journal on African-American children and families in this country and convened the first gathering in St. Louis of leaders regarding this agenda. Engaging the sexual abuse movement. I am a sex abuse expert and was involved in that because I was leading that team at Children's Hospital. And so I've seen 10,000 cases of maltreatment of all kinds and the powerlessness of sexual victimization in childhood and also adolescent sex offending behavior. And so I've been able to get into that mode with my openness, but also with the vision that children should not be targets of adults' needs, exploitation, and disability. They just should not. They deserve a child. That's my personal vision professionally. Building a child protective system in the Pacific Basin. Can you imagine public health asked me to go out there representing the practice? I kind of couldn't believe that. The American Samoa and Guam territories, the Commonwealth of Northern Mariana Islands, Republic of Palau, the Marshall Islands, and the Micronesia. Now, let me be real clear. I'm African American and I'm sitting out here in the Pacific Basin, and I saw immediately that the indigenous leaders and those professionals that were trained from those islands on the mainland did not agree on what abuse was at all. And then they told me, what we want to know is what's wrong with the mainland, because we don't trust the mainland. We don't want to do it your way at all. Powerful to be an outsider who's being asked to give to this group an inside perspective on how they could build their system. Their kids will go in the water and commit suicide if they're disowned publicly. But cocoa fibers on their legs should not be seen as abuse. Those kinds of interesting dynamics within alternate cultural contexts. Collaborating to establish a community school in DC, this public-private partnership with the district, where half of the children in the district's foster care system are in our care in Maryland. Converting homeless facilities into real, this is DC General, the atrocity that finally got closed down, so that the children, it's really homeless children and their parents, and being able to focus on their developmental requirements, bringing in Freedom School model from Marian Wright Edelman, and inspire their hearts. And I think the last couple, and then I'll begin to wrap up with a question to you. Confronting the need for a protected class. This book, I hope it's going to be really provocative, where we say that these Black males that are special subgroup are not protected and are harmed when they come into the systems. The COVID initiative that we're doing now in Montgomery County, where we're targeting the Black high neighborhood, high risk communities, because Montgomery County is the most vaccinated community in the state, in the country. But the Black men and Black youth are lagging behind, and we want everybody. And lastly, I am now preoccupied with emotional well-being of little kids who now go to school at 3 and 4. And how are we ensuring that they're well? I don't want to call it mental health. I want to call emotional well. How do we make sure they always feel every day that they're okay and it's okay? Because that's a wellness thing. So I'm gonna conclude by just asking you, where are you on your journey? I've been having a great one with values that have been reinforced by my professional training in social work. I'm glad that I have been a social worker my entire career, and I've collaborated across all kinds of perspectives and disciplines and people. But I'm glad. Where are you? Where are you from? What are the opportunities that you hope to see? That you hope to seize? Like, what's your special focus? LGBTQIA, immigration, anti-racism, poverty, democracy, environment, educational equity, and systems, and institutional reform. What is your thing? Where do you want to look for an opportunity to leave an imprint? And finally, my question to you, and the moderator, you can guide me whether or not they have time, but it'd be great to hear from them. What are your passions? What drives you? Fellow, about to be alumni colleagues and faculty, thank you for the opportunity, for hearing me, and thank you for UConn for still being there, doing what you do well, and imprinting and impressing and creating influences in another generation of social workers. Thank you, and I'm honored again for the opportunity to talk to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chapman. We certainly have time for questions. And if the last question is you asked, what are your passions and the cultural or social values that drive you? So students or faculty and staff, all attendees, if you could just type that in the chat and respond, and or just type your questions in and Dr. Chapman will certainly address them. But thank you so much for your powerful message. I'm sure we all feel enlightened and inspired, and I'm no doubt individuals want to learn more about you. So at this time, please type your questions in so that we can learn more about Dr. Chapman and or the experiences that she's had or books that she's publishing. So please go ahead and we'll read them out. Got a lot of thank yous coming in, much appreciated, amazing. And the question was just reposted in the chat. That is going by too fast. What are the passions and the cultural or social values that drive you to social work? So we have those responses coming in, Dr. Chapman. Long-term recovery. Can you see the chat? Would you like me to read it out?
I think that I see it. Let me see if I can go to the top of it now. Wow, I wish I could see all their beautiful faces. Okay, let me see. Let me go to the first chat. And if I miss anything, you can join me so
Yeah.
you can help the alumnus. All right. Got a lot of love. Thank you. I'm a social worker, so you know I do like a little love, even though that doesn't drive me as much as fairness, happiness, childhood. Every child is entitled to a childhood. That drives my belief from the time I was 8, taking care of children in my families and the children across the street in the foster home.
So as you're looking, what I'll do is from the comments or the answers to the question, I'll read those out until you can scroll through. So
Okay.
this one is from Sandy. I am a woman in long-term recovery from substance use disorder and passionate about serving the recovery community. That's a
Great.
response to your question.
Great. And important because in my generation, we treated women who were struggling with the monkey, the addiction, the imposition, as if they were men and that there were no gender differences. You know, like we now know that the gender perspective is important. So I think that's a fabulous opportunity for her to contribute. It's an important area.
A question from a student says, thank you. Some really important things to think about and reflect on based off your speech to us today. It says, any book recommendations or books you've written? Can you share those?
Well, we're in the process of writing this book while Crystal's on the line here. There's 3 Black men and 3 Black women, and we're writing the book. And I think it's capitalizing. You know, I see myself as a practitioner scholar. So I've done chapters and articles. And if you want, you could, Crystal, you could put it in the chat how they can write me, and I can send them a list of what I've written. In terms of books, I read everything. I read everything I get my little hands on. There's a book coming out now regarding the epic of Du Bois, an 800-page book. I'm trying to get my little hands on that because I'll read an 800-page book that will take me through someone's detailed understanding of a journey of a people. So I read everything. I read social work, but I also read Harvard Business Review. I read the Washington Post, the New York Times. I read everything because my world of children, everything affects their families and their communities. So I follow it. In fact, I want to say that right now the governor just appointed me to be on the Procurement Improvement Council for the state of Maryland. There's only 2 nonprofit leaders that will be appointed, very political, around how do we give out the money, how do we contract and grant, and I've been appointed that. I'm also been appointed to the Maryland Network Against Domestic Violence, the Fatality Review Group, as a person bringing the perspective of children, 56 deaths this past year. So I stay connected to those areas that influence my ability to influence my vision, which is every child should have childhood. And children come with adults and with family systems, with communities and institutions have children and influence children. And I read everything, but I can think of some that have been most influential. But I will, Crystal, when you put it in, that they can just email me, text me, and I'll send them some thoughts.
Crystal can also send it to me. I'll be sending out a survey after for Convocation, and I can include all of the information there as well.
Right.
Another comment here, I'm passionate about women and LGBTQ+ people who have been traumatized by religious abuse, as well as childhood survivors of domestic violence.
Great areas, great areas. We've made some progress, but not enough. Some progress in terms of our willingness to talk about it, but not with everybody. And this is vicious stuff. A religious justification for rejecting people and for hurting children is still strong. Even as we're doing more and more accountability of religious institutions around crossing the line, but still strong. That's an incredibly powerful agenda. And I'll be honest with you, children who witness domestic violence get damaged as much as children who are being assaulted directly. They get damaged around how they're being socialized to be males and females, what they can expect in intimate relationships, not knowing that people can be intimate, be mutual, care about each other, and that they can disagree and even argue without hurting each other in some permanent, violent, vicious way. They're being programmed and they pass it on. And in fact, they even bring it to the workforce. We now know, right? This whole subtle, because you can take that verbal abuse, verbal emotional maltreatment is the most insidious because we act like we can't engage it. In child welfare, we don't engage it, only unless it's with something else. We don't engage it by itself. I've had 2 cases where I was an expert witness and a content expert on two cases where the children were failing to thrive, imminent endangerment, life-threatening, and it was all based on emotional maltreatment and neglect. It had nothing to do with physical, sexual, whatever. And the judge took the case. The children were put into care, and the parents, Virginia Chateau, was the medical professional that helped me with this because she researched and looked at what they were doing. And they had to be taught how to feed these children because the children no longer ate out of instinct. They only ate for parental approval. You'll die doing that, particularly when the couple is fighting all the time and are not paying attention, right? So we act like, and I can't tell you the number of kids that I've seen at children. I had about 10,000 cases while I was there. I can't tell you the class issue and the wealthy kids who are really, in fact, parents are protected and can get away with putting them in psychiatric facilities, diagnosing them, when in fact the real issue is what's happening to them in the real world. The extreme environment just looks organized, appropriate, fine with them because they speak our language. They know how to manipulate our medical and therapeutic reports. They can talk to the judge. No one believes. And in fact, they have lawyers, so they will push us back if we try to accuse them of anything anyway. And their kids are going in, their kids commit suicide. They go into psychiatric facilities. They get diagnosed, labeled bipolar and all this other stuff. When they're still kids, they're being labeled bipolar and they still don't meet the threshold. And the fact of the matter is they're sad, not bipolar. They're sad because they are being emotionally maltreated chronically as a diet. And so how do we get to do that? So that's a whole nother area. But see, this is good. I'm enjoying hearing from you guys because you're inspiring me. This is our social work community. This is what we do, right? We have passion and we talk about. Remember what Maya said? We get that untold story. No, tell it. Say, this is who I am. This woman did a speech and it went off very well. And somebody in the audience asked her, you know, you were inspiring, you were smart, and you were intimidating. She pushed back and she said, do not let people define you. She said, I'm not intimidating. You may be intimidated, but what I am is okay with who I am and okay with my truth. Reframe. How do we teach our children? How do we teach folks who are in oppressive paradigms? Pedagogy of the oppressed. Freire, read that when I was at UConn. How do we help our folks see that they can define who they are and that they're okay? I'm not really into this mental health thing now that's all hot because PTSD in child has been around since '80 with the diagnostic categories. I'm into Do not encourage people to say, it's okay to say you're not okay. No, what's better, social workers, is it's okay to be okay. It's okay to be okay. Now, all kinds of crazy stuff may be happening to you, but you're not a victim because you've been victimized. You're okay. You will get to the other side. We have to bring that belief and faith to those we serve. We can make these systems work better. We can stop racist discrimination. We can have children learn and do that first public policy in the United States, which was the Hoosier Schoolhouse, that we have children have the right to public education. We haven't gotten that policy straight yet, but we can. It's okay. We'll get to the other side. If we don't believe that, it may take 50 years and may take another generation of social workers, but we got to believe that. So that's how passionate I am. And that's how I manage my burnout. I really think my job is to help systems see that it's okay. And it's okay to change. It's okay to proactively change. It's okay to be better. But it's okay. We can get to that other side. This is not la social work dripping with, feeling sorry for people. No, I don't do that. I don't rescue people or fix them. No, people bring their vitality. We have to capture it, but we can't capture it. We don't got our own, right? I'm sorry, you got me on the bandwagon. That was a provocative question. Thank you.
We only have a few minutes left and there are a lot of comments. So I will scroll through to a quick question that you were just answering actually. How do you take care of yourself? What do you do to take care of yourself and to ensure that you stay motivated? And then I'll go through the rest of the comments and then you can comment right after, but I want you to be able to answer that question first, because I think a lot of students are wondering, so what do you do? And then I'll go through the comments so that you can hear some of what the students are saying.
So one is you've got to be an observer of others. So you really have to be self-aware, but not self-absorbed. You have to be aware of others. And I'm going to say this to you, you have to pick who you associate with. The top 5, you look at your children, the top 5 kids that they have the most contact with are the ones that are going to shape them more than you when they hit middle school and moving on, right? So you have to look at who do you associate with, and you have to also look at what matters, because everything can't matter. You have to let go of the rescuer, fix it, and be truthful. I tell young social workers, I'll say, that's a custody fight. Why are you in it? That person needs a lawyer, not a social worker. I say that to social workers a lot. They need a lawyer, not you. They need a physician to look at the body, not you. Stop looking at the body. Make sure they get to a physician. So it's about who are you and what is your purpose, helps you take care of yourself. The other thing is, what do you value? So I value my family, and I have structured times every year where we do family, my kids, my adult kids, my grandchildren, we vacation together, and we have structured time. We do Sunday dinners. We have structured times for that. I need that. I need my church experience, and sometimes I'm going to a church in Harlem, because the Harlem church is really more me, because my local church has gotten aged and old. So you have to figure out what your needs are and take care of it. Be responsible, be disciplined. Sometimes you need to stop and just reflect. Stop and learn something new. Stop and find something that excites you to do. That's your responsibility. And you can't blame it on anybody. This anxiety disorder movement that went out, I used to say to my staff, because they were all talking, I said, what anxiety disorder for me looks like? It looks like you're blaming other people because of choices you won't make, because you have a choice to define your experience. You have a choice. You always have a choice. But if you're running from your responsibility for your choices, you're going to have anxiety, because if you are looking at everybody else fixing it, you can forget that. They're all distracted by their own journeys, right? You've got to own your own choices. There's a Black economist, I told you I read everything, Thomas Sowell, who says, he talks about consequential knowledge. Consequential knowledge comes from understanding the consequences of the choices you made, and learning from it. Someone else said, failure is the best teacher. So if you kind of like get out of a rigid brain notion that's linear that says, I need to know everything, I'm supposed to help everybody, I got to fix everything, you will burn out. And self-care is about how you don't allow yourself to slide into that. And some of these passions you have are critical ones, but don't get lost in them. You're okay, it's okay. And you can get to the other side. Change can happen. You're okay, it's okay. And do what you got to do to stay okay. Your responsibility. And I think it's wonderful because I like the ball being in my court if there's a problem. I teach my staff that all the time. Don't you like the problem being in our court? Because we can do something with us. Now, Boston people, Whitley, Marvin Whitley's word, people don't obey. The 2-year-old don't obey. Everybody wants to tweak and speak and imprint, but no one just obeys. So let's just stop getting in our mind that we're going to create the case plan that's going to fix this life problems all in the next 18 months. How long? Really? Really, your case plan? But by the way, the first promise is your case plan.
So we
Your
have
policy, how do you get other folks? We see it right now on the Hill. How do you get folks to make it our policy? And that consensus is not everyone agreeing. Consensus is everyone have had input. And there's enough agreement that we can follow the leaders and move on.
Thank you, Dr. Chapman. So we have about 5 minutes left, but the comments that I brought together, just because some of them repeated, it's maternal, physical and mental health and postpartum that individuals are interested in, along with breaking down cultural barriers and affordable treatment, BIPOC communities who are low income, creating access and equity, as well as community building. So when I conceptualize everything, those are the main points that came across. So as you think about how you answer that response, can you also share just one thing that you can use to motivate the students as they prepare for classes on Monday?
No, all in the next couple minutes, right? When I think about the frame, the continuum, I say to you that, and I know this is a challenge, but you know what? Challenges are made, remember, to grow us. To grow us. So the challenge is, how do you benefit from your classmates? Okay? My classmate was a upper middle class Black woman from Hartford. And I was renting out a little room in the apartment that her parents paid for and eating cheese and spam. But we collaborated on that research for our master's thesis. Do you follow me? We had collaborated. We came from very different worlds and situations, but we were at UConn collaborate on something that we thought that the dean should know. That the race workshops weren't going to be enough. There were other differences going on that had to be managed and people need to know about. When you do your where you're from with your classmates, you'll find out that they don't fit in boxes. You may find out things about them in terms of who they really see themselves being. That's important. So my first thing is, with that diversity of passions, I'd be trying to get to know my classmates big time. Yeah, because I'd be able to call on somebody, we got this problem, and you're a policy person, and we know the policy is driving this problem with the client. What do you think? Because you can't ask for exceptions and you can't challenge and you can change policy. And policy affects the client, and the client's experience should drive policy. Its policy should not come out the head. It has to come out the heart. The clients will tell you what's working and what's not working by how they grow too. So the last piece was, what was your second question?
Just one piece, I think you mentioned it though, but the one piece that you have for students when they begin on Monday, as they journey on. Right now, we have VSW students that are starting and wondering what social work is. We have MSW students, and we see some comments somewhere. This is their second career, Gen X's and different generations that they're pointed out in the chat. And then we also have incoming PhD students. So everyone's in a different realm. However, what's one piece that could tie together that you'll want to leave them off with?
So let me conceptualize this, because we already know UConn is a great research university, and you all are writing and doing books. But let me go here. Let me go here. The most powerful thing is our foundation as children and how we grow. I can look at some of my staff and get some sense of their parenting exposure by the way they approach problems. So what I would say is the research around resiliency, I would operationalize that for you all to take it back to you. The research, I think it was 80 of the researchers got together. I think it was the Ford Foundation, one of the big foundations, to look at it. They came up with a paradigm that the 4 major assaults on childhood was poverty, physical and mental health, mental disabilities, unstable family structure, unstable families, family instability, that's what they call it. And the 4th one was a non-supportive community. But then they went on the other side and said, what are the protective features? There's a lot of folks who talk about this stuff, but I like this particular one because it came out of so many and they grabbed the research. There's been more research since then, but the protective features, I want your students to think about that. Your resiliency is the intersect between your challenges and your opportunities. The first one is your temperament. You know, I'm labeled ENTJ, Briggs, but I told you I reframed who I am because I framed where I'm from, right? And that we do know now it's no longer really your genes versus your environment. We now know that they intersect with each other. Your environment affects how you are biologically, and your biology, your predispositions affect how you may handle your environment, and some intersect. But know what your temperament is. Be aware. That is important. Be aware if you're feeling stress, say, touch your stress points. Listen to your body, listen to your emotional life, and own that, because that's a strong temperament. Second one is, do you have an adult? Search Institute said more than one, but I'll say minimally one. An adult that the child trusts that's not their parent. Well, do you have someone that you trust? Because people in all kinds of relationships, but they don't really have trust. Trust could be mentor, it could be pastor, it could be partner, whatever. Third category was family structure. Well, have you done, the Harvard Business Review had a whole article on this thing called ADD, which is a mimic of ADHD, attention deficit, ADT, attention deficit trait. And I think there's some corporate psychiatrists making buku money on this. But what they said is that if you have too much information, too much communication, you can get irritable, you can forget stuff, and you can make decisions that are not smart as you are really. So you've got to declutter, and that's a strategy for that. ADT is declutter. Be organized, have a process by which you manage information, and it's okay. You're not supposed to just be able to run through everything and know everything and collect everything. How are you organized? And what do you not need to know? Everything's not notable, you all. In your work with your clients, everything that has happened in these long-winded, go on and on records that nobody reads, everything is not notable. What is important to know? And how do you figure that out? Your values will lead you to that, as well as your organizational culture. Be careful where you work, too. The 4th category was the ability to a child to volunteer and participate in the community. What are you doing that is gratifying and it's kind of like your voluntary participation? Don't lose that. Don't be so driven by, I got to get this degree and get the grade and get out of here and do my passion thing, that you forget that we got to balance our life. And the 5th issue I think that they talked about with childhood is second chances. Give yourself that you didn't get the A, you missed the deadline, pick up the phone, talk to your professor, renegotiate promises. Get clarity around what you're being asked to do. Just stop and say, can we review it? And again, I'll conclude with this. This young African-American professor at Harvard Ed School came to a Brown thing. I'm a Brown trustee emerita, and I go to the stuff, a presentation. I was saying, what he got to say? I got an EDD from the Ed School. What's he got to say? And his research was on help-seeking behavior. I said, that's an interesting topic. As a social worker, all right, I'm particularly interested in an educator talking about help-seeking behavior. What's he talking about? And what he proved in his thesis was that students, it had nothing to do with race, class, nothing. Across the board, students who were able to seek help from their professors succeeded. Straight up. Students who were able to ask for clarity, for assistance, for feedback, even if the professor was busy saying, can we come back? Okay, chop, 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 we got it. They were overwhelmingly more successful. So that's my feedback to you all. Check out your temperament and manage it, because you can be more than your temperament, right? That's leadership, right? You're more than your temperament, but know what your temperamental strengths are. Structure your context so that you're not getting overloaded with information that ain't even notable, and you end up with attention deficit trait and do crazy stuff. Negotiate with your professors. Negotiate with your employer if you're working. Just to negotiate a different promise, timeline, type of promise, and then say if you can't do it, tell the truth. Tell the truth, because sometimes people ask you, and I'll conclude with this. I was an intern in the Office of Families under the Carter administration. It was quite provocative. I got that internship because I had a professor, part-time professor teaching, and he got appointed to be the head of ACYF. And I called him and said, can I come and do a work with you this summer? And he said, what can you do? I said, really? Really? You really want? I can do whatever you need me to do. He said, okay, Cheryl. So I get down in this expansive experience, and this young woman is like, do this, do this, do this. And I'm like, okay. From 7 in the morning, 7 at night, I'm running around. And then finally, the list got so long, I wrote a nice note to her and I said, Marty, here's what you want me to do. And I had a list of about 30 things. I said, which ones do you really want me to do? And she said, oh, I didn't know I was doing that. So thank you all. Thank you for your feedback. And I hope you have a fabulous year. And I hope that you do all that you want to do as you move towards your visionary passion. Just make sure you enjoy it. It's all good. It's all good, and you're okay.
Thank you again, Dr. Chapman. I know you see all the thank yous that are coming in, inspiring, awesome. You have a lot of high energy, a lot of wisdom and experiences that you're able to share with us today. So really, thank you. I'll hand it over to Dean Heller for the closing remarks. So hang in there. We got about 15 minutes left, and then we will close it out.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chapman. This has been absolutely inspiring. That time that we met, it must be 2 years ago now in your office in DC. I was so delighted to find such a wonderful alum who has such important things to say and stories to tell. If we can all aspire to your energy, your wisdom, I think we will be in good shape, and our social work profession will be in good shape. So thank you so much. I also want to say that what I've also really appreciated today was seeing the great deal of participation from our students, the thoughtful questions, the conversations you've had online about your passions, your goals, what you got here. I can't think of a better way to start off the academic year. I feel hopeful about who you are. I feel curious about what's going to happen in your classrooms. And if you all can engage with each other, in your classrooms, in the field, in the ways that you have today, we are all going to be better for it. So please take those chances. And what I wish for you this year is that you continue to light the fire of your passion, that you continue to nurture your intellectual curiosity, and that most of all, you be kind and patient with each other, that you demand excellence from each other and for yourself, and you do it in a way that really works to promote a sense of belonging among every member of our community. Our faculty and staff have talked a lot about how important that is. It's certainly related to diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. But if we can frame everything that we're doing in this community as being about belonging, you're going to bring that with you to the communities you serve, the people you serve. And, you know, the underlying piece of that is the respect that you have for others, the respect that you have for differences. So I invite you to continue this as Dr. Corbin, our Associate Dean, and Dr. Fendrick, our Associate Dean for Research, have both said, we're here, we want to talk with you. We will set up office hours and times that you can just drop in. You can drop in at the second floor suite, the third floor suite, or virtually. We're here because of you. So again, have a wonderful, wonderful year. And again, my heartfelt thanks to Dr. Chapman, and as always to the faculty and staff who are so devoted to their profession, their scholarship, and most of all to you. Our work is about developing the next generation of social workers. You all are going to go out and do wonderful things. Thank you, and I'm thrilled to be able to join you on this journey. Best wishes.
Thank you, Dean Heller. And this was not a part of the plan, so hopefully we kind of just roll with it. But if Dr. Campbell could just say a quick hello to everyone, if anyone joined in late and didn't know, just to introduce yourself and just say hello really quickly, followed by Dr. Neiman, and then Dr. Kurz and Dr. Scott Harden at the end. Just a quick hello so individuals can see your face.
Good morning, everyone. Hello, I'm Dr. Nicole Campbell. I'm the new Director of Field Education, and I look forward to seeing everybody next week at the start of the semester.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Paula Neiman, Director of the BSW program. So I'm thrilled to welcome new BSWs and returning BSWs and look forward to meeting all of you.
And hello, everybody. I'm Brenda Kurz, MSW Program Director. I will be visiting classrooms of all the new students and a class for all the second-year students. So you can see me, you can talk with me. And I also will set up office hours. I am thrilled that we are in person. Thanks, everybody.
Good morning. I'm Scott Harding, co-director of the PhD program. Hurry up and finish your BSW and MSW degrees so you can come get a PhD.
On that note, thank you again, everyone, for joining in. I'm just going to share my screen really quickly for reminders, probably about another 5 minutes. And then we'll begin you'll be on your journey officially. So just quick reminders, this is what was mentioned in Dr. Chapman's presentation as well, but you know, outside of all of this, she talks about self-care. It's going to be really hard for you to really be an ethical social worker if you're not first prioritizing yourself or seeing who you are and your identity. So please continue to work on that. And just remember to uphold the NASW Code of Ethics. You're not going to be a social worker. You're in practice as one now. So don't wait until you get your degree to say, now you're going to follow these Code of Ethics. It begins now. So you're going to hear this in your classes throughout, especially your BSW students in your introductory course with Milagros. So just ensure that you're upholding to the core values. Really quickly, for our graduate students, so PhD and master's level, there are the UConn GSO, so it's the Graduate Student Organization. There are some leadership positions that are currently open. So if you're what you spoke about today, that you're passionate about some of the interests that you've shared, we have groups that you can chair and be able to engage in conversations, work with faculty and our staff, and be in our community. If you're interested, you can certainly contact myself or the email that you see here, and I'll share this with you in an email as well. We do have some vacancies, so I'm speaking on behalf of the chairs now. And it's essentially for BSW students. I know that you all already have group chats going and emails going and a whole, meetings that have been set up. But if you're interested in a BSW student and being a part of the club as well, you can email averysmith@uconn.edu. And this is what the GSO's executive team looks like, the Graduate Student Organization. So we have 2 co-chairs, Lexi and Victoria, and then our treasurers, Lauren and Serena, is our secretary. Please reach out to any of them or myself. I serve as the advisor, and we will get you all the information that you need. And GSO is planning on hosting trainings this year. So the mental health first aid was successful last year, licensure workshops, if you're interested in those, and other just meet and greet opportunities. So please, please, please get involved. That was a part of the message this morning. Get involved, get to know people, get different insights, be a critical thinker, and it can begin here as well. So just one quick upcoming event, September 8th, we're going to do just a short meet and greet inside, and it's free stuff. So yes, you're going to get some things that we've ordered. Just come by. We want to make sure that you know what the building looks like, number 1. But 2, just to get an idea of our community room, our space, and to build community. We're not going to be in there too long because we have to follow COVID protocols. Masks are required. We'll be distancing. But essentially, please stop in. It's not mandatory. We just want to see your faces. We want to say hello, and we need to hand out the box of things that we've also ordered. So again, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you, Dr. Chapman. I'm sure we're going to hear all about your speech throughout the next few weeks about how people feel empowered because you've modeled that today and just sharing your story. So I appreciate that. But I need to shout out folks behind the scene. Crystal, who's with Dr. Chapman, sharing the screen, making sure that we're on time. Thank you so much for meeting with us, for being a part of the planning process. I appreciate you. And Kathy Burney from OSAS has been behind this as well throughout the entire planning. So thank you as well, and to everyone else who has been a part of the planning process. I appreciate you. Couldn't have done it without you. And to all the students who joined, appreciate you as well. Thank you for coming in. Looking forward to seeing you, meeting you, greeting you. We're on the first floor, OSAS and field. As soon as you walk into the social work building, that's where we are. I acknowledge that you probably haven't visited the building yet, but in the first week, try to stop in and just wave and say hello. If you follow our UConn OSAS page on Instagram or Facebook, that's where we'll be putting updates like meet and greets or whatever it is that we have going on. So if you're not following us, please follow us because we'll certainly be doing things a little different this year to make sure that you feel that there is a community here and that you do belong here because you do. So we just want to make sure that you're not missing out on any of the information that we're sharing with you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So with that, we ended early. Wow. Okay. Thank you so much again, everyone. I know I got a question if the building is open today. Yes, the building, it is open. The bookstore is outside of our building, so you can go to the bookstore. I will suggest that if you have time and if it's possible to try to drive by and get acquainted before the first day of classes, or if it's the first day of your class and it's, it's 12 o'clock to come early. Don't wait last minute, y'all. Like, make sure that you're planning effectively. That's what one of the messages that Dr. Chapman just said to us before is to just make sure you're organized. Don't try to do everything all at once. So let's plan ahead. Let's make sure we're preparing. If you say you're going to leave your house at 9, leave at like 8:30, right? So things like that. Just be realistic. Don't say you hope for, you wish for, just do it. So thank you again, everyone, for coming on. I will be sharing the recording and the PowerPoint, and I'll also be sharing Dr. Chapman's information with you. A survey is coming out, so please respond to those survey questions. And again, if you called in, please email me or the SSW Student Services so that I can verify that it's your number and that you attended. If I have to hunt it down, It's just going to be you didn't attend. So please send it to me so we can check it off, and we'll get through this together. Any last comments from any of the panelists?
Yeah, Trisha, I just want to pick up on something that has come up in the chat, and that is a question about whether students need to be wearing masks. And yes, we do. That's a requirement for all students, faculty, staff, visitors on the campus. It is also a mandate from the city of Hartford. So do remember your masks. If someone comes in without a mask, we will, because you've forgotten it or you don't want to wear one, we will have a temporary mask available for you. And if there's a refusal to wear a mask, we're unfortunately going to have to have you leave the classroom, given public health needs of your colleagues. I don't imagine we're going to get to that point. Really, we just want to ensure that there is safety for everyone. So please be patient with this. We are all very tired of the pandemic, tired of wearing masks, and we got to stay with it a little bit longer. So thank you for that.
And this question came in regarding books. Barnes & Noble bookstore, you can put in the class subject and number, and it will show you what books you need. You can email SSW Student Services with any questions that you have after this that might have just come up because school is starting. We will answer those. So just, again, communicate. We don't know what to tell you if you don't ask us. So again, just communicate with us and we'll try to be as proactive as possible. So thank you, everybody. Have an awesome weekend. It is Friday. Have an awesome weekend. We'll catch you on Monday. You're going to be okay. You may be nervous, but the truth is you're just excited. So have a great one. Dr. Troutman and Crystal, thank you again so much for your time. Truly appreciate you and looking forward to seeing you and hearing from you again sometime in the future. So thank you, everybody, and all the program directors. Have an awesome day.
Get the book when it comes out in the fall, okay?
Send us an email so we can send it out.
Okay, good. Thank you all.
No problem. Have a good one. Thank you, Scott, for being the light.